Well, does the idea of not working forever appeal to you? Well, it does to financial educators and influencers, Natasha Etchmann and Kresina, who co-authored a book on that very goal of developing financial independence and freedom. Tash, Anna, welcome. Thanks for joining us on The Wealthy Effect. Tash, first off, before we get into your background, what does financial freedom look like?
Oh my gosh. Financial freedom can mean so many different things. It depends on the person. So just generally, I guess if we're using more of a proper definition, it's when you have enough of your shares or your investments to cover your expenses. But that can look very different for me versus Anna versus someone else. So for me, it more looks like working a job that I love and not having to work to survive.
Yeah, Anna, so it's all about independence, isn't it? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, for me, it's spending time with my family, being able to see family abroad. As you can probably tell, my accent is not from here, even though I've been living here for a while. So it's having the flexibility to do the things I love with the people I love.
All right, well, let's first talk about how you actually became interested in finance, a bit of your own backgrounds. So, Anna, you've actually come out with a book on parenthood and so on, but how did you actually become interested in finance?
Yeah, I've always been interested in personal finance, and I kind of started blogging and sharing a little bit, and it just so happened that I started working for Pearler. So I work in the tech industry, work at Pearler, which is great, which is how I got connected with Tash, and then we started a podcast together, and the rest is history. The rest is us writing my second book and Tash's first book.
Yeah, in fact, we'll get into the book in just a moment. So Tash, your background, in fact, you've got a background in OT. So how did this develop?
Yeah, it was a bit of an accident. I always spoke about money. My parents were very open about money, but I didn't know that other people weren't speaking about money the same that I was. So one day during COVID, I just decided to post on Instagram about what I was earning, how much I was spending, and it really took off from there. And now, 4 years later, here we are.
Well, I mean, you talk about spending money during COVID, the squeeze that everyone's been under. I mean, that's particularly pertinent at the moment, of course, cost of living pressures. So many households are really struggling at the moment. So it's obviously you need money to live. How then do you develop a strategy where you have money to invest?
Yeah, well, that's always really hard. I think the most important thing is to understand your cash flow and your budget. So that's one of the things that we talk quite a bit about in terms of getting a handle on that. And then if you have any additional income from that, some money that you're putting aside, if you can invest it, you can build your wealth that way. So that's one of the things that we talk about quite a bit in our book, because ideally for a lot of us, we don't want to work forever. And a way to not work forever is by having income coming in, and ideally passively if you can, which we do through investing.
It also obviously depends on your stage in life. I mean, when or what age should you actually be considering investing?
As soon as you can. My first investment was when I was 18, so as soon as I could invest, I wanted to. But as soon as you learn about it and as soon as it matches your goals, you should definitely invest. But again, going back to your other question, it really depends on your goals and why you want to invest. Wanting to invest for a house or for a short-term thing is very different to investing for retirement.
That means having financial discipline, doesn't it? Which doesn't come easy, particularly when you're young.
Yeah, but it's something that you can definitely work on. Like, it's a skill that you build for sure, and you can build habits and routines around that, but it's definitely something everyone can learn.
So is it wise to put perhaps a time frame on this? If you want to retire, not work forever, do you come up with an age? How do you do this?
Well, it's very different for everyone. For some people, they just want to work part-time. They still love what they want to do, and they maybe don't want to work forever. But one of the things we talk about in the book especially is if you were to invest just $100 a week, in 40 years, that $100 a week turns into $1 million. Now, of course, that changes based on your time frame, if your time frame is longer or shorter, or if you put more money in. But the idea is that a small bit makes a huge difference. And going back to your comment, it is behavioral, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of it is about making those small habits and making those small changes so that you can build wealth.
Yeah, and starting with like a goal definitely helps. Like if you're like, I want to invest to retire, that's like who knows when, that could be ages away, but it's a lot easier to work towards a really tangible goal. So you could start with, I'm just going to put away $100 a week for 5 years and see what happens. But then going back from that, you're like, my goal is $100 each week. You're not like, I want $1 million in 40 years, and it's hard to work towards that.
But of course, as we all know, life often gets in the way of those plans, be it maybe you do become a parent, maybe you have health issues. Do you need to sort of plan for those unexpected issues?
Yeah, definitely. Have an emergency fund, get your insurances sorted, like definitely plan for those things. But I think they shouldn't hold you back from working towards your goals now. Like your goals can change, but as long as you've started, you're on your way to something good anyway.
So how did you two develop that? And it obviously leads into how you came up with this book of, do you seek advice or are you self-educated?
I tried to find a financial advisor when I was younger, but it didn't quite suit me. They ranged from like $3,000 to $5,000 back then, and I was a 19-year-old with maybe 10 grand to invest. So it didn't suit me back then, but I think it's definitely valuable to get advice if you are maybe about to become a parent, or you're about to buy a big house or spend a lot of money, or if you're about to retire as well. Like those stages are really crucial, but it really depends on how much money you have.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the book then. How you two managed to collaborate on this, why you came up with the book. What's the aim?
I wanted we have our book, yay. My aim initially was to have a really practical guide to invest in Australia. When I was first learning, I found it really hard to find Australia specific information or things that practically told you what to do. There was lots of like mindset stuff or budgeting stuff like the Barefoot Investor, but not a lot of practical investing information. And we also both like living our lives and like doing other stuff as well. Like we aren't just obsessed with investing. So we wanted it to kind of balance living a life you love while also investing for your future.
Yeah, so Anna, what would you like to see people get out of the book?
Well, first off, if someone hasn't invested before, they don't know where to start, like just being able to have a practical guide to know what to do. So what are the first steps that you need to do? Looking at your cash flow, your budgeting, and then just actually start investing. So I'd love for people to kind of learn that part. And then secondary, thinking about really what kind of life do you want to live? What's your passion? What's your drive? What would you do if you never had to work together? Would you be here 5 days a week, or would you be working part-time? And that's kind of the catalyst of the book, being able to build that wealth, but also build the life that you love. So if you want to travel, if you want to do other things, if you want to hang out with your family, you can, because you have the means, because you have income coming in.
Are you targeting, well, obviously, you want younger people to become aware of what they should be doing. What about genders, though? I mean, we often hear of that the gender discrepancy, particularly as far as income is concerned, and particularly at the end of your working life, your super balances, women tend to be far behind. How do you think, what's the best way of actually closing that gap, do you think?
That is a big question. I think it starts with education. Lots of people don't believe the gender pay gap exists, which is problematic. And if people don't acknowledge it, then we can't fix it. But yeah, just education, making things more accessible, more friendly for people to access, and having a different diversity of voices as well.
What sort of asset classes do people need to consider? Because I guess when you talk about investments, people immediately think of equities, but I mean, there's so much more, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we cover everything kind of in the book. This is more of a beginner's guide to investing, but obviously a lot of people do look at property. Some people, like depending on your goals, if you have a short-term goal, you might want to be low risk, so you need to focus on cash because you might want to buy a house in 3 years. So we talk about a couple different asset classes, but it depends on your goals, it depends on your time frame, and it depends on what you want to do in the future with the income that's coming in if you're investing, right?
How readily accessible is investing at the moment? I mean, obviously, if you wanted to invest in the share market, for instance, I mean, there are ETFs now which are very popular, particularly with the younger demographics. Is that not a bad way to perhaps start out? Yeah,
definitely. There's micro investing apps now as well, so you can start with $5 if you want. They're awesome because they've got portfolios you can just pick from. There are ETFs which are great as well. There's even lower minimum investments too. You can buy an ETF for like $100 on some brokers, so there's lots of really accessible options these days.
Were you aware of those, different ways to invest when you first started out? Perhaps when you were 18, when you left school? I mean, because that's half the issue with, you leave school and perhaps you're completely unaware of actually how life works, isn't it? So you miss that.
And I think it's gotten a lot cheaper now as well, because back then I had to pay $20 as the cheapest brokerage I could find, but now you can get free brokerage, which is amazing.
Yeah, okay. So, Anna, as I mentioned, obviously, cost of living issues at the moment, I mean, we know how difficult it is, particularly for young people, to try and get into the property market. What is your advice as far as trying to build up a strategy, be it in property, be it in shares, just trying to get going?
I think a big part is just having the kind of behavioral side, just doing little bits at a time. So if you can put a little bit of money away here or there, that's great. I know I'm a parent, and for me, it's really hard right now if you have kids in early childhood education and care. Like a huge amount of my money goes straight into there instead of into the mortgage or something else. So the thing is also just being okay with knowing that it's not always going to be the same time as you, the same situation. So as you get older, often your income gets bigger as well. So knowing that, hey, if I keep learning and if I keep progressing in my career, I'm probably going to bring bigger income in, and sometimes it's going to be tight. Like right now it is really hard for a lot of families, and they might not have the money to invest or to buy property, and that's okay, but hopefully that doesn't last forever. Again, it comes down to those behaviors. Doing a small thing at a time that you can put a little bit of money aside can eventually end up growing.
And should you be prepared to make mistakes?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely good to make them and learn from them. We'll all make mistakes, but I think it's important just to start and get going and try not to get too disheartened. Like if you can't buy your dream house straight away, that's okay. You can buy another house and that can be a stepping stone. You can invest in shares maybe you can rent best. There's lots of other options out there.
Tash, Anna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.